Hello, ma'am. Am I audible to you?
Yes. How are you?
Ma'am, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, we'll begin shortly, within 5 more minutes, maybe.
Sure, of course.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
A very good evening and my warm greetings to one and all present here to International Lecture Series Chapter 16, brought to you by School of Education, Adamus University. The topic that we are going to talk about today is engagement and efficient teaching with Techno tools. We have with us Dr. Srimani Chakravarti, Professor, College of Education, University of St. Francis, located in Naperville, Illinois, United States. Before I introduce you to our today's guest speaker, I would take this opportunity to thank our Chancellor, Professor Dr. Samit Ray, Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Naveen Das, our convener of the lecture series, Professor Dr. Shauli Mukherjee, Director, School of Education, and Associate Dean, School of Liberal Arts and Culture Studies. Our coordinator, Mr. Amol Shankar Mukherjee, Assistant Professor, School of Education at the Merced University, for their humble efforts behind today's event. And before I would introduce you to our today's guest speaker, I warmly and cordially welcome you all here. And I would request you all to kindly keep yourselves on mute. I would also request you to diligently follow the session, and you can post your questions, queries, anything you want to ask to our today's speaker in the comment section below. So kindly stay posted. Now, talking about our today's guest speaker. Sorry. You take 2 units.
কি হলো শেয়ার তো হচ্ছে না আচ্ছা তোর সাউন্ড অন
Would you like me to start?
Ma'am, am I audible to you? Ma'am, I think you're on mute. I would request.
I can hear you now. Sorry. I
Okay.
couldn't hear you in between. Would you like
Ma'am,
me to
actually,
start?
there was a technical glitch, and I'm really sorry for that.
No worries about it.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. So, talking about our today's guest speaker, Dr. Chakravarti, she is an experienced professor with a demonstrated history of working in the higher education. She's skilled in special education law, methods of teaching, educational and assistive technology, instructional design, learning disabilities, behavior disorders, and other disabilities. She has a working experience of a professor for over 15 years. She has expertise in university and college accreditation and curriculum development. Her primary responsibility is in teaching undergraduate and graduate courses in special education and managing the special education program at the college. She has served as a project director for 3 federal grants, one from OSET and the other 2 for the Doing What Works (DWW). Her responsibility also includes advising and supervising teacher candidates during their field experiences. She has also chaired the assessment committee at USF. As a part of the university accreditation through the Higher Learning Commission, she has chaired one of the standards involving student learning. Without further ado, I would now hand over the session to Dr. Srimani Chakravarti. We are so happy to be your host today, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. I think it seems like a lot. So how is everyone doing today? I hope the day has not been too long for you. I know I am the last session today at 4 o'clock, I think. So I appreciate that I am seeing almost 50 students here and faculty members too. So I'm really happy to be addressing all of you who are mostly, I believe, teacher candidates, right? going to be teachers, which I think teaching position, the profession is the most noble of all the professions. So kudos to all of you, and thank you for inviting me to your prestigious university for this opportunity. So as you know, the presentation is going to be on using technological tools that are available free to be more engaging and efficient in your classroom at whatever level or whatever subject area you're teaching. We have 4 objectives in this presentation. So by the end of it, I am hoping that you will be able to identify at least a few tools that you will be able to take away with you. I just have a request to all of you. I want you all to try at least 1 or 2 of these tools with your students in the future. So just something that I learned over the years. You know, you attend many presentations, you attend conferences, you get so many ideas. You get like 20 ideas, and you're bubbling with energy, and you want to incorporate all of them in your teaching. But I would suggest that take away at least 1 from each of the presentations, or 1 or 2 things that you will actually apply to practice. So I urge you to think about using some of these tools, or 1 or 2, identifying them immediately as I go through them. And then we're going to analyze the various uses of the technological tools. And we're going to try, as I present the tools, I request you all to think of examples to your current teaching or your future teaching classroom, depending on which class you will be teaching or which subject area. I want you to think of examples. And if you can share some example in the chat as I'm talking and saying that, oh, I teach history and this would be a great tool for history, I would truly appreciate it. We're also going to identify the potential that these tools hold in improving outcomes for our students in the classrooms. So I understand that there might be tools here that you're already using also in the classroom. So this might not be entirely new to you. If you are, please share in the chat and tell me how you are using this in the classroom. So the rationale for using the technology tools is we make our students write a lot. We make them write essays, we make them write short answers, we have them choose multiple choice. It's usually paper pencil based, and we have a lot of emphasis on the writing portion, right? So how about we try to really test the knowledge and skills of the students by not by having them express what they have learned in different ways other than an essay, for many reasons, right? So for example, somebody might struggle with the writing portions. They might not be able to express what they know in writing. So for me, one common peeve is when teachers, they want them to write an essay or a short answer to express their social studies or science knowledge, when they might know all the science. I'm sure you all have some students in the class, or you will have some students. Dr. Amalji will agree because he has also taught quite a bit. We have students who know the facts, who know the knowledge and the skills, but they're not able to express it in the written format as an essay. They might know everything. So give them a chance to express what they know in different ways. And providing technological tool will also give them a visual aid to retain and recall information, which is useful for all visual learners out there. And we are going to be using technology to its full potential. We're also going to be providing for creativity and artistic talents to flourish. So if there are students who want to illustrate something, they're able to use these technological tools and making their content applicable and appealing to everyone. And the last point, but not the least, is making your content accessible to all learners, meaning that all learners can show or understand what you're teaching, They can also express themselves to show what they've learned from your instruction instead of relying on a paper pencil. So the first set of tools that I want to introduce to you are timeline tools. Has anyone used this before, using a timeliner? If somebody has, just share it in the chat. So timeline tools is something that I've been using for a very long time in my classroom. So we have some free timeline tools like Dippity, TimeToast, LineDo, and Timeliner. So you can just type in free timeline tools in Google and it'll take you. So as you can see in the visual, what the timeline tools does is it takes a bunch of text. If you add some text, like as a Word document, and you put all the years, it converts it into a timeline. So this shows you visually the sequence of events. So this is perfect for either teaching or asking your students to demonstrate, for example, what were the sequence of events that led to the independence of India, right? So they will have to show all the sequence of events and the years and the important thing. So some of these tools also let you add visuals to your text for each of the timeline events. And you can also add videos in some of the tools. So that makes it very interesting. If somebody is curious about, oh, I really don't know what happened in the 1942, I want to read about this. So instead of reading like 4 or 5 pages of text, which may be text heavy and which may be difficult for students who are struggling with English or reading, you're going to give them a visual way to still get the content and express what they've learned in the timeline tools. So here is an example of a timeline that one of my students created for the spina bifida history. So this visual will give you what they have to read a text. They have to read 4 or 5 pages to understand that the history dates back to 16 or 1800s, right? And they will see which areas or which decades was the most progression that happened, right? Where is the concentration of the progression? It also gives you a visual to trigger your memory and remember that, oh yes, these technological tools came this part of the year or this part of the history timeline. So do any of you have any examples on how to use the timeline tool in your classrooms? Anybody teaching history here? With history, there is a natural application, but don't think of it as just as history. You could use it in many other ways too. The next tool that I want to introduce to you is an online poster with live audio, video, and hyperlinks. Again, some of you may be familiar with all these applications. I think thanks to Zoom teaching over the past few years, some of you might have already taught them. If you haven't, I encourage you to check them out. I must tell you that most of the technological tools have a video. They definitely have a YouTube video that tells you how to create educational materials. Another thing that most of these tools have is they have a help desk and they have resources already created in education by teachers, which are free to use in any context. So if you're teaching common topics like geography of the earth or science, you might be able to find a poster that's already been created and it is free for you to use. So you don't have to worry about, oh, do I have to create this to use this in class, right? So I personally like Wisme and Canva. Both of them are very good, and they let you sign in. So let me see if I can share my screen. Are you all able to see my screen? Let me know if you're not able to. So I'm now on the Canva site. You should all be seeing that. So going into Canva, you can sign in with your Google account, which I have signed in with my account. And then I look for all templates. I can go back home. And then I go to templates. And then you have all templates. And I do a search for, I'm going to show you one that we commonly use on the board. When we are instructing on the board, we generally use a graphic organizer, right?
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, your Canva screen is not visible to us.
Sorry about that. Let me just share it. How about now?
Yes, ma'am, it is. It is.
So what I did was I logged into Canva. I'm sorry about that. So canva.com, you can log in with your Google account. It's a free platform. And then you go into the templates. I hope you're all able to see my screen. And in the search bar, you can type in graphic organizer or just type graphic. And you have a range of organizers. So how do organizers help you? They help you organize. They give you a system for organizing information in your brain. So most of you know how to do this naturally, but most of our students might need a visual representation of how the information is structured everywhere. And you're all familiar with this. So I'm going to show you one of these. Which is a very common one. I'm sure you're using a compare contrast in many lessons. If you're not, I suggest you do, whether you're teaching English, science, social studies, or math. So for example, the differences between two kinds, like what's a numerator or a denominator, different kinds of equations, right? A polynomial and a monomial. What are the differences? What are the commonalities? So you can use a digital poster where you are typing into this. It can also let you save your poster, digital poster with the Venn diagram, and it can also help you introduce visuals to it. So you can introduce a solved problem and you can put it up in your classroom, or you can give this as a digital poster for them to have later. So as I mentioned, just think of how can you use a digital poster like this, right? You can also find images for your text and add voice. So there is, just under the templates, under Canva, there is a place called apps. And when you go to the apps, it'll tell you there are very good examples of apps. For example, there is an app which gives you all the images you want for anything you want. They said they wanted a panda that was in the lake, then they just found pictures of pandas in the lake. Similarly, you can find any pictures you want. You can say map of Africa, geographical north region or something. It's going to come up with those pictures for you, and then it will enable you to record an auditory note on top of the visual. So that will help your students by, you can show them a visual of how it looked instead of using a paper pencil pen. Are you able to see my PowerPoint screen now? Okay, let me know if you're
Yes,
not
ma'am.
able to. Thank you. How many of you are familiar with infographics? You see infographics everywhere now. People use them on advertising and anywhere where they want to present some information visually. But guess what it does to your classroom? An infographic will just improve the quality of your teaching just by giving a summary of whatever you taught, whether you're teaching business, you're teaching arithmetic, or you're teaching science, it'll just give you a summary. It doesn't necessarily have to include graphs. It can include any visual. So you can create very good posters about, people they want to do, or for example, in English, if you're teaching English and you're teaching figurative language, just imagine how an infographic would look with simile, metaphor, and all these examples given on just one graph, right? So these things really help you to visually enhance your presentation. So here are a few, again, infographics. Canva and Visme, both of them have infographic tools. Some of them have ready-made templates too, right? I noticed a comment in the chat saying that making PowerPoints are hectic, right? So you're right, the Topo app is amazing. It generates subject and topic-wise PowerPoints. I think PowerPoints, you don't have to regenerate PowerPoints. If you do a search on Google for any topic you want, there might be many free ones that you can really use, right? And templates. And as with any other skill, I think making it often makes you like really good and fast, and making it is just practice. It's a skill that can be developed. It's not something that is difficult to learn too. But you're absolutely right. The Topo app is really good for making it really quickly. So there are other apps called, there are other websites called PictoChart, Wengage, and Easel.ly, like easily. So all these help you create infographics. And like I mentioned, don't worry about trying to create your own infographic. You just need to know it exists. You just need to know I can enhance my teaching using these infographics. And then you can do a search. There are many teacher tools, and many teachers post this free of charge online. So especially for common topics like science and social studies and English, you can find those tools. So the next tools are video tools. I'm sure that some of you have seen this or used this yourself. So we have both engagement and visual stimulation, which happens with video tools. But the most important thing about using video tools in the classroom and putting it on, let's say, your LMS, right, learning management system, or sharing it by email to the students, is that it is a permanent way to have your learning for people who have missed your train of thought while you're teaching in the classroom, right? If you're teaching something and, for a second you lost your memory, for your second you've just lost the train of thought, or you lost your attention. And then when they have the video, or when they have the directions on how to do something, it really helps you, right? It integrates both audio and video channels. So there are various tools that are all free, which you can use for a video creation. So in the chat, do you mind typing which ones are you familiar with? If you're familiar with any of these video making tools that enhance your PowerPoint. So PowerPoint has an audio feature where you can record your voice on your PowerPoints. I'm going to show you an example of one of my class examples. Has anyone used Animoto, PixieClip, or Screencaster? If you have, please enter it in the chat. I would like to know how you've used it, so I won't be repeating it, and thanks. There are other apps called Edu Creations. And Show Me. Show Me is an app for the iPad, so it might not be there for the laptop. So they all let you have, for example, a blackboard or a whiteboard, and then you, just like you write on a board, you can write and you can talk as you write. So this is really good for solving math problems, for example, and showing the steps in a math problem, right? You're just showing it and creating an audio recording. So whenever you do the audio recording, I suggest that you always think of making what is very apparent explicit, meaning that you're really showing them that this is what I am thinking as I'm solving. So for example, while solving a math problem, you're saying, oh, do I need to subtract or add here? I'm looking at this one. So I should be adding here. I shouldn't be subtracting. So you're just clarifying what is going on in your head also while you're recording. Thanks for sharing that, Rahul. I'm not familiar with Filmora, but I'm sure it is similar to what I'll be presenting now. So this one was created on Office Mix. So let me see if I can. For some reason it's not playing the PowerPoint. Just give me 1 second. Sorry about that. So this is a recording. I'm just going to show you.
Objectives and materials themselves need not become barriers. If some materials are used in isolation, then they become a barrier for anything. So in this section, I'm not really going to highlight any barriers per se. I'm going to move on to the next section to find the barriers on how these objectives or how these materials are being used. Let's move on to the procedure section of the lesson plan to identify the barriers. I see a barrier in this first part of the procedures. The teacher is going to pose this discussion question on the projector or the board. Who would this be a barrier to? Posting a discussion question on the board requires reading, right? So people who cannot read will find this a barrier. So you can highlight this part in the lesson procedures.
So you get the idea here. So basically
So here is an example of how.
So what was done there was the directions that I used for the assignment was used on the video. So this was a replacement. So you know how you will have your students saying, "Oh, ma'am, or sir, how do I do this?" Right? How do I and you have to explain the same thing that you have explained to 20 or 30 students, because each one is asking you questions on how do I do this, right? So this was an example of an assignment explanation that I used on PowerPoint. You're able to see my PowerPoint window. There is a recording. There's an insert. Are you all able to see my PowerPoint screen? So you see there is a video attachment on top and there is an audio. This audio one, I would like you to try because this is really, really easy to add any audio to your PowerPoint, right? And then you can make it enhancing and you can give them tips for solving a problem. If you have something, you say, hey, look at this, or remember this, remember these notes that I gave you? Try to look at those notes while you solve this. So that's what we're going to do here. And after you finish your video, make sure that you save it as an MP4. Which can be easily downloadable and used. The next resource I'm going to show you are websites and binders. I don't know how many of you have used one. So there are several uses of using these sites. So let me just show you a visual so you understand how that works. So here is Weebly. Weebly is a free website host. You can use Google Sites too. I personally like Weebly or Wix, WIX, because both of them have very visual enhancing images and templates that you can use directly. Google Sites are good for professionals like you and me who are already teaching and who want it to look very professional. But for students to create, you want them to be able to use a lot of images and a lot of things that they can use, right? So here is a website that was created to have resources for teaching all this to students who are English language learners or who are learning English as a second language, right? So this was created by those of you teaching, like you, right? So if, for example, if you click on this, it takes you to the next site. It's just a website, but it is very, very simple to create. I don't know why that's empty. Sorry about that. So go back home. There are videos here. So you can include links for videos and take you there. So basically, you're just helping them create a website. So how can we use websites in the classroom, right? We can use websites for asking them to share what they have learned about a topic. So it could be any topic in your classroom. You can say, if you have learned about various landforms, you can say, why don't you create a website, right? And then here is a live binder. Let me just show you. This one is a much more simpler black and white way of doing things. So it's like instead of having a binder or a folder or a organization strategy physically, you are having it virtually. So here you have the table of contents, you have the different ones. You click on each, you can get into each one. You see where I'm going with this. So there are no visuals, it's all on top. So I asked my students to create a binder. When I teach them facts, binders and websites are really good when you're teaching a lot of facts and knowledge that you want them to retain, and you want them to show that, okay, they've read the textbook or they've read what you have given them, but they have to reproduce it, right? Instead of writing an essay question or an answer, you're going to tell them, create this and put your information in it. You can also use this for teaching. You can put your resources and share the link of the website to them. You can publish. So this one will have everything they need in one place. So instead of using a PowerPoint, consider how a website can be used to teach and hold the same resources that you're using in a PowerPoint. Has anyone used a website before for sharing with students or? So try Wix, Weebly, and Livebinders. They enable you to include a lot of pages free of charge, and Google Sites is also a good option. Are you able to see my PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the last but not the least one are online quizzes. Thanks for sharing that, Ankita, that you've used Wix. I'm glad you like it. It's really a very intuitive one and it's pretty fast. So I would encourage all of you to try that. So the next one that I'm going to show you are how do we have alternatives in technology for quizzes and tests. Okay. One of the things that you need to know as teachers is you're going to have a lot of tests and exams to grade, right? So instead of having a paper pencil test and increasing your workload as a teacher, you can consider doing the same thing using technology and cutting off more than half the time that you would use to correct these exams, right? So I like to use it as an alternative for a lot of my lessons. So let me just show you. How many of you have used Kahoot or Nearpod? If you have, please type it in the chat. So Nearpod is a great option because it has many ways to choose from. So let me just show you. I'm just going to share my screen. So here is Nearpod. Nearpod also has a free library where you can, school library, do you see this? They have a shared learning library, which is great, which you are, if you're teaching some subject area where you can find it, just find it there. Okay. So these are the lessons that I have created in my class. I can use it in any class that I want to use. I can either use it to teach live in the class, right? Or I can use it as an option that they do self-paced. Let me just show you what they have. So for example, in the class, if I want to use this, I could have a collaboration board. This is basically a board, and then I ask them a question. What do I know about teaching students with learning disabilities and ADHD? Then when they type in their answer to this, when I actually launch this and have them join in, they can also join in using any device, or your phone also works. Each of their responses comes up as a note, post-it note, a sticky note on top of this. So everybody is able to see everybody else's response. So instead of having a physical classroom where everybody is raising their hands and responding, you are creating this option where they can respond to a question in the class using these options. So here is another example that was a pre-made one, just to give you an idea on how you can use this. So this is English language arts, and it's all about sentences. So you can see this, they give you an objective, you can move ahead, they give you what it is. It's just like PowerPoint, and you can upload your PowerPoint into Nearpod. And once you upload your PowerPoint, you can stop your PowerPoint at any point you want and insert a slide. And your slides can be either a quiz. This is one of the slides. It's possible to draw it. So this one says draw it. So let's see what the teacher wants them to draw. It says read each sentence, put the correct punctuation mark at the end of the sentence. So they have these sentences. You see how as soon as I go, I get a pen. So I either put a period or an exclamation mark or a question mark. I'm not reading what the sentence is, so it could be totally wrong. And there is a way to make it self-correct. So when you get the answers for your students, you will be able to see everybody's answers together, and you will be able to see very quickly grade through them. It won't take you as much time as it would take for you to do a paper pencil corrections. So they say in each sentence, circle the simple sentence. So if there is a simple sentence here, it'll let me take my marker and correct it here. So it's a very cool tool. It's a very easy tool to implement if you already have PowerPoints. So go to Nearpod, upload your PowerPoints, create a lesson. Again, most of these you can log in using your Google accounts. This one is something that you can use in the class live. You can say think, pair, share. You say you want them to think. You say look at the slideshow, think about what is happening in each picture, talk to your partner, share your thoughts, and say after the slideshow you will be writing sentences about each picture. So let's see a visual example of this, right? So this is a slideshow. You see a visual there. And then you can add this slide, which is an open-ended question. says write at least 2 sentences about the picture. At least one of your sentences should be a compound sentence. So you can go there and you can start typing in whatever you want to type. So each of your students will get to enter text and you can see it. So you see within one PowerPoint, I managed to introduce many different questions and it's all done. I don't need a test at the end of it. And there is a quiz too. So this quiz has, I think, 11 questions. And the quizzes can be yes, no, true, false, and a multiple choice or short answers, which is the great thing. So when I had to make digital lectures, it was a very great way to know that they are listening. You know, sometimes you give them the PowerPoint, they're not doing it. So here is a good check. You know that they have to read and make sure that your questions really make them think and apply what you're teaching. So here it says pick the correct punctuation for the sentence, knowing where to find it. So there are 11 questions and that would be the end of the presentation for this one, for Nearpod. And this one, Mentimeter, let's just see. Would you like to try one? Would you like to try one of these online quizzes? So if you're able to, I know some of you might be logging in with your phone. You may not be able to get off Zoom if you're not. So if you are able to, I would suggest, so you go to www.menti.com, which is on top, and use this code 32669585. If you're able to do that, you should be able to see the screen that I'm seeing. So go ahead and answer this question. What is one technological tool that caught your attention today, which you think, oh, I'm going to explore this. I'm going to try this. I hope you're able to get into the website and use the code. Oh, I see that some of you have used Kahoot too. Thank you for sharing that, Ankita. Are you able to get into the site and type in the code? Thank you for confirming, Sanyuka. As I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, I want you to take away and start using them and send me an email. My email is on the presentation. Tell me that I use this tool and this is how it worked. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to share it with me. Are you able to get off Zoom and type in your answers at menti.com? I'm not sure if you're able to do that or unable to do that. If you're not able to, just let me know, then we can just continue with the presentation. So this was actually the last of the slides I had. Thank you for sharing that, Ankita. You can also use the chat if you're not able to get into Menti. Look at that. Look at how beautifully it displays your answers. Thank you, whoever shared that. That is Wix, by the way, Wix, if you're looking for it. Canva, very good. Thank you. And as you put in your responses, see, it creates like a Wordle. I don't know if you're familiar with Wordle. Wordle is like a bunch of words that creates a poster, right? So it puts in different colors, different font. It's visually appealing. So this could be like your, takeaway from, you can ask questions like, how many types of give some examples of living things, for examples, and then they're going to come up with those examples. So this was the last of my slides, and thank you for your attention. And I'm going to open up the floor for questions and sharing, if that's okay with Dr. Amal. People are still responding, so I will leave the screen on, but feel free to type your question in the chat or unmute yourself to ask the question.
Ma'am, I'm Sanjukta. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Ma'am, this kind of technical setup, is this possible in a physical classroom environment in a convenient way, like in a smooth, seamless way?
Is it? So sorry, can you repeat your question again, Sanyukta?
Ma'am, whatever we learned today about how to technically upgrade our teaching and make teaching and learning easier for students. So is this very smoothly and seamlessly possible in a physical classroom environment?
Yes, actually it is. Are you talking about a physical classroom where you don't have access to technology, Sanyukta, or where you have a computer in the class?
Yeah, a computer, yeah, and a screen maybe, but not like in an online format. Like online classroom is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a
Yes.
offline, yeah.
Yes, I use these tools in the physical classroom too. For example, this one that I just menti.com and Nearpod, you can do a live launch of the Nearpod lessons. So you can have Nearpod and you can launch it in the classroom for them to join in, just like we do this, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I see a question, Vidisha. Sorry, Sanyukta, I can't hear you.
Ma'am, I wasn't talking, maybe someone else.
Okay. So, Bidisha, your question is a good one. In what ways can technology be used for collaborative learning and group projects, right? I encourage you to think of collaborative learning could be like, for example, in a physical classroom like Samyukta was talking about. This is what I do for collaborative learning. So when I'm teaching something, I say, okay, you're going to partner or you're going to pair up with this group. I give them some time. I use the same, you saw that post-it notes, the sticky notes thing on Nearpod, right? You can say your group is going to present this poster, right? When they create the poster, so you can have them create a poster on the Canva app, for example, right, on what they have learned. So as you're doing lectures especially, or teaching in the classroom, I urge you to think of pausing your talking. There is a saying that says that teach teach the best you can, use words only when necessary. So I try to follow that. Try not to talk too much, because there's so much of audio information that sometimes it gets overloaded, right? So just pause, give them the important things, give them a visual, teach what it is, and then say, okay, now you see this. So for example, you have taught about non-living and living things. You pause and then say, now you have a partner to work with. I want you and your partner to come up with 5 examples of living things and 5 examples of non-living things and put it on this Nearpod. You can display the screen if you have the facility to do it, or you can give them a physical poster, where they can collaborate and give their responses. Number one, you are helping them talk to each other and think of examples. Number two, you don't need to do a test to see did they understand this, right? You don't need to do all the corrections and grading. You have them expressing what they know right there. Okay, I see a good question here by Ankita. There is so much going on with the negative impact of the technology and social media, right? I think we can't help thinking, is this going to be, difficult for us and stuff? But I think this is where we as teachers have to give the wisdom to the students and say, when can technology be a boon? When can it be a bane, right? When is it not helpful? So I think for a teacher, technology is limitless. I think you should never hesitate using technology, right? And some of you may have used polling tools, right? Even Zoom has a polling site, so that's probably the most common one, which will give you a good assessment. We talk about formative assessment in the classroom. We say we want to make sure that students are listening and paying attention. If you engage them using technology and these tools, your job as a teacher becomes a lot easier. So I was not joking when I said it's engagement and efficiency. I got a lot more efficient when I have to correct so many papers. Students are understanding a lot more. I ask them for feedback after I teach. I say, okay, which one did you like? Did you like Wix or did you like Weebly to create this website? And imagine I had to grade like physical binders, like, 3-ring binder where you have to turn the pages. Imagine like correcting 40 or 50 assignments like that, right? So technology became so much easier. I can click from one side to the other and see, do they have all these things that I need? I can give them feedback. Now I don't have to be carrying such big pile of paperwork home and doing everything. So it's really helpful. So you're right, technology can be a difficult thing to achieve, but I would strongly suggest try to see which ones are helpful. That's a great question, Bidisha. Thank you for the question. What are some potential ethical considerations, right? So the ethical considerations is number one, you have to make sure that if you are using anything from any other source, even Google Images, right? Make sure that every PowerPoint says that this is where I got this image from, right? And then give them, make sure you cite. Even if you're taking information from a text from somewhere, let's say there is a very good explanation of living and non-living things from a lesson planning site that you did, you're taking that, make sure you say, I got this from here, right? So that way you're playing safe, right? I don't know how many of you have heard of Chat GPT. Have you heard of Chat GPT? I'll put it
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the yeah. So Chat GPT is something that's caused a lot of stir in the teaching circles. It has a lot of potential. Apparently, a Chat GPT can give you a lesson plan. So we tried this actually. We go in and we say, give me a lesson plan for teaching science at a 3rd grade level for this topic. And it gave me a full lesson plan with all objectives, everything, right? Now, it's free of cost, it's available there. So what if your students are also using it to generate that essay, right? Some of our students are so smart, they probably know technology more than we do, right? In many ways. But just make sure that you tell them that it is out there, but when you are using that, make sure you cite, you cite saying that I use this as my first draft of the paper, right? So similarly, while you are using these tech tools, most of these tech tools have been tried and tested by teachers. So they are safe to use in the classroom. Nothing is going to happen that is, going to prevent, hopefully, right? No Zoom bombing, something like that. But the ethical considerations are about citations when you use others. Yeah, so that's true actually. Even academic research papers are being generated by Chat GPT because somebody said they published a journal magazine. Any other questions? You may feel free to unmute and put it. I see there's one more. I think, Ankita, you make a great point. It's about the critical thinking, right? So, for example, I think one of the key things you have to remember as teachers is you are not responsible just for the knowledge and skills. You are responsible to help them think critically, right? So, thank you for bringing that up. So, say that is why I think technology has potential. You're not introducing just the knowledge and skills over and over again. You're telling them, now apply it. I want to see examples of this. Say, now if you're teaching about World War or geography, or say, why do you think this region of India with this agriculture, what kind of things do you think what kind of things are grown there, right? Like, for example, showing them how to apply that knowledge to examples. That's all I had. Sorry if I went over time.
Okay, so do we have any other questions for ma'am? You can post it in the comment section, or you may just unmute yourself and talk to her directly. So I think, ma'am, they have posed most of their questions to you.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for you have shown us ways of how we can use technology to guide our train of thought and to enhance classroom teaching. And a very important takeaway from today's session would definitely be as to how to use technology to our full potential to make our content applicable, visibly appeasing, and accessible to all learners, irrespective of their differences at the same time. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us at this odd hour and for sharing your insightful deliberation. This indeed means a lot to us, and we hope to have you in our campus in Kolkata someday really soon.
I
And
hope so. I love the city.
Yes, ma'am. So we'd love to be your host, and have a great day ahead. Thank you once again.
Thank you, you too. Bye, everybody. It was nice meeting you. Get in touch.
Bye, ma'am.